my word, what a save.
She gets around Dunbar, she's out wide, but she puts it in the net. Lovely strike, lovely bit of play.
Oh, and he's looking to catch the goalkeeper out. It is an unbelievable goal.
Hello and welcome to Kickoff, Football New South Wales official podcast of NPL New South Wales men's, women's and Football New South Wales League competitions. My name's Pellizzeri, joined by Annabelle Banfield. Annabelle, great to see you again.
Great to be here. We've had another really exciting month of football across New South Wales, which I'm keen to get into.
It feels as though the podcast is going from strength to strength too. I saw your smiling face on social media.
Started getting clips out there, which hopefully, you get to see us and not only hear us, so it's exciting.
I think it's seeing the players. That's what's getting people excited. No offence. That's what's getting people excited.
For sure.
And we have three great chats coming up for you on this month's pod. But our moment of the month is what leads the show. So, Annabelle, from the Football New South Wales offerings of the last handful of weeks, what was your moment of the month?
My moment of the month was being up at Northern Tigers versus the Illawarra Stingrays, which was a pretty awful weather game. Rain's pouring down, but it makes it all the better when you get incredible goals like the one from Olivia Cartwright, well outside the box, smashes it into the top right corner. Rain's pouring down, just a special moment, which the camera wouldn't do it justice, considering anyone who's been to North Turramurra knows the sort of filming conditions, but check it out if you haven't seen it.
Now, the moment of the month for me, it's funny you mentioned the filming, because anytime something odd or strange happens in a cup game, you get to just say magic of the cup, and that makes it all okay. And when the game between Sydney Olympic and Sydney United went to penalties, thankfully, I had a correspondent out in the field willing to get behind the goal and start a Facebook group chat and film the penalty shootout, which finished 11-10 to Sydney United 58 as they advanced in the Australia Cup and the Waratah Cup to the next round at Sydney Olympics expense. But I reckon I was going to come in here and say it was Mate Busek's goal for Marconi against Manly, which was a brilliant strike, but I think just that little slice of magic of the cup was my moment of the month for me.
Shootouts are always exciting, and when you go that deep into one, as you say, magic of the cup sums it all up.
All right, so before we get into our interviews, let's take a look at some of the themed rounds, both going on and coming up in Football New South Wales. Annabelle, we had Female Football Week recently. Tell us a bit about that.
Well, it was a huge success because so many clubs across the board in both our sort of NPL setup and the association clubs celebrated the women's game and the contributions that women make to football, both as players, coaches, referees, administrators and volunteers. There's so many ways that women can get involved with our great game and really elevate it.
We go a bit more in depth on this subject of giving back to the community, but also with a female-specific focus with our NPL women's guest on this week's show. But I might ask you the same question here off the top. Female Football Week, what does it mean to you? And given that you are still, coaching youth players, girls starting their football journey, you're also a player yourself. Like, what are you seeing in Female Football Week that's been done well, and what are you hoping to see in the future?
Well, I love being involved in football, and I think it's fantastic to have this moment to sort of pause and reflect on all the incredible contributions that women make to our game and ways that we can elevate and sort of platform the women within our game. And also we can sort of plan and look forward to moments for clubs and associations to look at ways that they can improve the ways that women can participate in their club and continue to grow the standard of women's football in this country.
More of that coming up in our NPL Women's Chat. But first, we're going to talk a bit of NPL Men's New South Wales here on Kickoff, and we'll hone in on that division and our first guest next. So our first guest, NPL Men's New South Wales, is the chat, and today it is the Marconi Stallions goalkeeper, James Hilton. James, thanks for joining us in person for this chat.
Cheers, thanks for having me.
So let's start with the team before we get into you. It's a really good time to be talking about Marconi due to the way the season's going so far. Now, don't give us 1 week at a time. How is the feeling about this team and the great momentum that it is currently building through the season?
Yeah, look, obviously we're in an exciting position. In the league table, it looks pretty good for us. And I think at the start of the season, if you said to us, where do you want to be, like nearly halfway through the season, we'd probably give you the situation we're in now. So the season's been good up till now. The feeling is excited because we've put ourselves in the position to kick on and be in and about where we want to be. So yeah, the lads are all in high spirits, and yeah, we're just going to try to ride that wave as long as possible, I guess.
So unbeaten is one thing. At the time we're chatting, that is true. But we'll set that aside, because the way the season started, there were a few draws, and Spirit got the jump on everyone. And after 4 or 5 weeks, they were 2 games clear on top of the league, and we're thinking, oh, changing of the guard, things are new. And now, at almost the halfway point of the season, I think the teams that everyone was predicting pre-season to be strong have proven to be strong. Are you the sort of player that looks at the ladder and looks at the circumstances week to week, or does it catch you by surprise as well to say, oh, hang on a minute, we're 6 points clear on top of the league, we're actually starting to pull away from our competition?
Yeah, well, no doubt Spirit are a good side. Like, they've got good players, so it wasn't really a surprise when they kicked on, especially early in the season, and even now they're going to be a hard team to play. As far as the way we sort of prepare, looking at the table, try not to worry about it too much. I think the way, or the template we have for the week, obviously is working for now. So if it ain't broke, we're not going to try to fix it. So we'll just look ahead. Who are we playing on the weekend? You know, we have our standards that we try to hold every single week, and we'll look at the opposition. We know it's going to be a hard game, but they might have certain players or certain threats or systems that we need to be aware of. So our staff do a great job of saying, look, lads, this is what we need to be aware of. This is how we're going to approach this individual game. And I think by preparing each match sort of week by week and just seeing how the table unfolds, you know, it's just happened now that we're on top. We haven't lost, but, you know, we'll do the same preparation every single week. And yeah, like I said, it's working for us at the moment.
And speaking of preparation and sort of how the staff have been leading you, you guys are set up really quite strong defensively, and for you as a goalkeeper, that must be really nice. What's it like to have, you know, trust and confidence in the players in front of you?
Yeah, obviously, as a keeper, when you know exactly what's going on in front of you, it makes the game as easy as possible. You know, there's no sort of moments of panic. You can just let the game come to you and affect what you can. So, you know, the lads have been brilliant, and yeah, there's been a lot of focus on our defensive record, which is obviously something we try to keep as closed a shop as possible. But at the same time, we're a high pressing team. So I think if you're preparing for a match against Marconi, you know we're going to be in your face. We know we're going to be full of energy. Everything's going to be rushed under pressure. So at the same time, yeah, our defensive record's been good. I wouldn't say it's because of certain players or certain positions. You know, it's everyone all together. Press is high, and if you've ever played in a full press, if one player is off, the other team usually gets a chance. So the system, the preparation, and all the lads being on the same page has gone into that defensive record. So yeah.
One thing I wanted to ask was how you're being coached this season, because at the start of the season it did feel as though Marconi were going to be very results driven and seemingly from the outside looking in not overly concerned about style, but it feels as though the building blocks to score more spectacular goals, to play more eye-catching football, now to quite simply be a bit of a draw card team. It's not just the results, it's how the team is playing is all starting to come together. Has that changed in how you've been coached, or is it just the momentum that the team has built has allowed, you know, the expansiveness of how the team is attacking to sort of emerge during the course of the season?
Yeah, well, I think the credit has to go to the coaching staff, because, you know, last season we lost some players who've gone on to full-time contracts. You know, they've proven their individual quality and moved on. So in order to improve a championship winning side, the coaches have had to go away and get players that are like for like or come in and improve the squad. So I think obviously winning that championship last year helped us to come away from it knowing we now know how to win games. We've had that experience. We're still a young squad, but we've got that sort of chip off our shoulder now. So when it comes back to bringing in the players that can sort of fit our system, it's a very similar squad to last year with a bit more individuals, like a few individuals coming in and sort of add their flavour to that. So if our style of play is different or we're attacking a bit more expansively, you know, the standards are very similar to last year. And I think it's just, yeah, it comes back to getting that recruitment right and just having everyone sort of gel together. So
let's talk about some of those new names, because, you know, we can see Jake True or Mate Bushek play well from the outside, and they have. But But what about the dynamic of the group and the personalities? Because you win a championship, there's a bond formed. You know, in 10 and 20 years' time, you know, there's going to be reunions, and you know that is now, you know, history. New faces, new egos, new personalities. What is it? A different Marconi, or does it feel very similar to the one that did go all the way last season?
No, it does feel very similar. It feels tighter knit. You know, we've had those experiences now together, so I think, you know, the lads have that shared bond now, like you say, and the lads that have come in have bought into absolutely every single value that we hold at the club. So, you know, those two boys that you mentioned, and there are others as well that we've brought in. You know, we got TJ, who we brought in over from Blacktown, who's been brilliant at the back. He's played every game for us as well. So, you know, I'm sure I'm forgetting other lads as well, but everyone who's come in has bought into the values. So the dressing room's so tight-knit, and I think we've gotten to a certain level of togetherness now where if one player's off it on a weekend, I think anyone else could give him a clip on the ear and say, you know, let's make sure you're at it today. And you mentioned the word egos, and I think that there is no ego, and I think that's what makes us so together, is the fact that anyone could pull up anyone and say, do you know what, maybe that standard wasn't where it needed to be today, and they wouldn't turn around and argue the fact. They'd go, all right, like, you know, cheers for letting us know, and then that's what keeps the standards sort of so high.
And you speak of high standards and sort of this team philosophy of all working together. When you're setting out goals for this season, was going back to back, you know, on the board, is that something you guys talk about?
Yeah, for sure. Like, we had a meeting pretty early on where Secca sat us lads down and said, you know, there's I think 5 trophies on offer this year, and I think we'd be doing an injustice to the job to say we're not aiming to win 5 trophies this year. Now, you say that tongue in cheek, knowing it's going to be like, it's going to be really difficult, right? But at the end of the day, we've got the squad, the coaches, the backing of the club. So if we're in 5 competitions, we're going to try and win 5 competitions. Now, in saying that, we now are all on the same page. We park it, put it to the back of the mind. And like I said earlier, then it just goes back to week by week preparation. You know, every game is worth 3 points, or like in the cup, all you're trying to do is put your name into the next round. So in knowing what we want to achieve at the end, having the confidence that we've achieved a little bit of it in the past and keeping our preparation the same, you know, at the moment, it's working for us. So yeah, that's what we're going to strive for, and we're going to try our best to achieve it.
Tell us about the goalkeeping coaches, because it is interesting you mentioned the press and the entire team's responsibility to it. So how much outfield coaching do you receive as a player who's playing out from the back and or looking to be part of the unit that shifts up and down to press, versus the straight up and down technical goalkeeping coaching, and where is sort of the intersection between the two? How does the goalkeeper coaching affect the full outfield game, and then how does the full outfield game come and affect your role as goalkeeper?
Yeah, it can be a little bit of an interesting one. Obviously, we're not full-time, so we have 3 nights a week, and every day will look a little bit different. So if we played on a Saturday, we come in on a Tuesday or a Monday, we'll look at the game, see how we went. The goalies might go out a little bit early, and we'll get hands on the ball and sort of get down and dirty, diving around, and then, you know, head over with the team and do whatever they need to do. Towards the end of the week, it will come a bit more specific as to what we're going to face on the weekend. So if we're going to play a team that loves, you know, crosses into the box from absolutely everywhere, we might go about a bit early with Pete Sestak, the goalie coach. He does a brilliant job of sort of looking ahead and preparing us for that, and we'll mimic those situations so that come weekend we're not surprised by anything. And then after maybe 40, 50 minutes with the goalies, we'll go over with the team, run through some patterns. Secca will let us know, you know, what to expect. And it's funny actually, because we'll do some patterns, see what the other team's likely to play, and then come Saturday, usually the halftime team talk is, you know, we're prepared for this. So whatever the situation, whether we're up, whether we're down, whether we've conceded or scored lots of goals, at the end of the day, we come in at halftime and it's, you know what, like, stay calm because we've prepared for this. So as for me playing with the team, seeing that press, we'll do a little bit of shape, but I've played with the lads for long enough now that I know exactly what we're going to get out of each other. And like I said, we're all on the same page, so that preparation stands us in good stead.
As you mentioned before, you're going for 5 trophies this year because we've got the new National Second Division coming in with the Australian Championship, and you've just mentioned, you know, all that preparedness. You've got to get prepared for another competition coming up. How's the feeling like at Marconi, knowing what's on the cards later this year?
Yeah, it was all a little bit unknown at first, but since seeing the draw come out, I think it's become very real for all of us. So we've seen the draw, we've got some dates, and now we're just excited. Like, at the end of the day, we'd be in a pre-season anyway come that time of the year, whereas now we're playing for a trophy. So it's like, instead of, you know, running laps around West Sydney Parklands, now we're traveling the country, we're playing for such a big club, and it's a bigger stage to sort of showcase what we've got. So we're absolutely buzzing for it, and hopefully it's a good time.
Interesting you mentioned, you know, we're not full-time professionals. You're only training so many days a week. Have you been invited into that environment, trials? Have you taken it upon yourself to go on trial, be it in Australia or overseas? Like, what's the background of your involvement at the professional level, and how does Marconi, as a team that we would expect to be perhaps at the very, very top of NPLs around the country, maybe the most prepared non-professional team in the country to ready a player to take that next step, how does it compare? Yeah.
Look, I've had sniffs here and there, but like what you said with Marconi being at that top tier, like, yeah, the board, the club, they provide us with absolutely everything we need. The coaches are professional standards, you know, like Second Fleet, they have day jobs, and at the end of the day, we feel like we're being given the professional resources to go and give them professional performances. So I say we're part-time, but that's only in sort of time, like, you know, time we spend on the grass or time that the coaches can spend preparing. At the end of the day, the facilities we're afforded, you know, the quality of coaching, it's all as good as can be expected, and the lads are loving it. So, yeah, you know, we're really well looked after, and we're really grateful for that. So we just hope we can repay the club with those performances.
I think that's enough on Marconi. Let's start asking a few questions a bit more direct. What was your journey to Marconi? How did you get signed, and where did you come from along your journey through juniors and then breaking into senior football?
So it started off at Mounties Wanderers. I wasn't even a goalkeeper when I trialled there as a goalkeeper. I was sort of like, well, I'm not quick enough to play on the field, so I whacked some gloves on. They saw a little bit in me there and took me on, and I was there for 3 years. And then
were you playing centre back or centre forward? What was your position?
Yeah, centre back.
Centre back.
Yeah,
okay.
Just loved the tackle and was always late to them. So I thought, oh, yeah, I'm just hurting people. I may as well just get myself out of harm's way and put some gloves on. So yeah, so then ended up at MacArthur Rams, so close to home. I'm out in Camden, so that was nice, and I was lucky at all my clubs to be surrounded by like such lovely people, you know, like caring, hardworking people that saw a little bit in me and sort of tried to promote my pathway. So I was 15 playing 20s at MacArthur and 16 sitting on the first grade bench, and it was important for me to be close to home at the time. Because I was finishing my high school and wanted to take that really seriously. So that's sort of what brought me there, and I stayed for so long because of the people at the club there. And they had goalie coach at the time, Ben Duggan. You know, it's the anniversary of his passing yesterday, so God rest his soul. But he sort of really pushed me to be playing those higher age groups. So at the same time, we weren't winning a lot, we were conceding a lot of goals, but playing in those higher age groups really helped me develop as quick as possible. And then yeah, I finished my high school and wanted to sort of play at a higher level. I just sort of had that taste for trying to push myself. So went to an open goalie trial at Marconi, where Ante Kovic was the goalie coach, and yeah, got the phone call. He had a little bit of faith in me, and then yeah, we're 5 years later, and yeah, really loving it there.
Is there a goalkeeper, be it your height, your build, your style, that you've modelled yourself on, or have you just chosen your own path with regards to how you keep goal?
Yeah, it's sort of a mixed bag. I feel like it's always evolving. Like the position in the past 3 years is completely different to when it was when I first started. You know, when I first started, it was get big, make saves, get dirty, yell at everyone, just be big and angry. So as I was growing up, like I'm from Manchester originally. Dad's like a City fan. His dad's a City fan. So Joe Hart was like my guy. Obviously, I didn't grow to 6'5" or whatever he was. So I had to sort of look at goalies with my profile. So you know, goalies like Cech or Buffon, and I'm not saying I've got anything like Cech and Buffon, but with their sort of like you say, physique and that. You can take little bits from all of them, and not just the professional goalkeepers. Like when I was working with Ante, or when I was working with Pete Sestak now, like they'll give you little things that you can learn off. Or the first grade goalies as I'm growing up, you take something from everyone. And even now that I'm first choice at Marconi, you see the young lads coming through, and they're all incredible, like at different things, because the position's changed. So they've come through learning the things that maybe I didn't learn coming through. So you can look at some of the younger lads and take things from them as well. So I'm always looking to learn from as many people as possible, watch as much football as possible, study the game, and just have that mindset where I'm open to new things. And I might try it, it might work, it might not, but at least I've tried it and I know whether it fits me. So, yeah.
Yeah, and in that chat you mentioned being from Manchester, being born there. We've done some research. You've also got an Irish heritage. Would going to Europe ever be on the cards? Is that something you'd look into?
I think for every young Australian footballer, like, to play in Europe is a dream, right? Like, you'd love to go play Champions League or Premier League or whatever it is. But at the moment, the here and now, I'm at Marconi and I absolutely love it. So as much as it would be a dream to chase after that, it's a dream to play for Marconi as well. So coming through, like when I first come over, Marconi had the sky blue kit, and like I said, I was a Man City fan, sky blue kit. So that was sort of like my team when I came. So I was watching a few of the lads playing in the NPL back then, and now to be playing for them, it's like I said, it feels like a professional setup, and the fans, the club, everyone in and around, it's a pleasure and a privilege to play for them. So like I said, for the here and now, it's a dream to play where I'm at, and I'm loving my football.
One more on the sort of how you approach your goalkeeping, because it is the position where you've got to reset and get things out of your mind and not let them weigh on you. Are you process driven with, say you concede a goal, or say there's a mistake that you're unhappy with, and you in the moment it's on you? What is do you have a process to reset? Are you very situational? Do you have like a method that you go through? Is it something you were coached to do, or is it something that you've just naturally adapted in order to get the last phase of play out of your mind and only worry about the next one?
Yeah, it's an interesting one, and I think it's sort of ongoing. Like, I could have an absolute beast of a game on a Saturday, and then the next week drop one through my legs, or the other way around. So I try my best to just stay as calm as possible in whatever situation. I'll work as hard as I can at 100% every single training session, and as soon as it comes to a Saturday, I sort of just try to flick the autopilot on and back that I know what I'm doing. So whether I was, really happy with my performances, or there was things I'd like to improve, as a goalie, you're kind of always one mistake away from being the villain, no matter how good a run of form you are. So all you can do really is just keep the gap between mistakes as long as possible. So at the moment, this season I've been blessed to have, a longer run of games before that happening. So when it happens, I'll see how I react. But yeah, I'd like to say I'll just flick the autopilot back on the next weekend, and as things come to me, try my best in that certain situation. So.
Before we get into our final question, what do you do outside of football? Are you working full time, studying? What's keeping you busy?
Yeah, so I literally just finished my university degree. So I did a Bachelor of Medical Science at UNSW. So when I started that degree, that was like, I really wanted to be a doctor. And then as I've come through that, I've realized that it's a lot of hard work. So I sort of dragged that out a little bit, so that door is slightly ajar if I ever want to do Doctor of Medicine. The pathway is there. But in the meantime, I've been working as a coach at a gym, like a BU functional fitness gym out near me. And that I find is really rewarding. Someone can come in, I've never done a push-up, and then 4 weeks later they're benching their body weight. Maybe not that quickly, but at the same time...
No, that's a good sales pitch. You should absolutely tell
them. Everyone join up. But at the same time, you're helping people achieve like their goals, and I find that really rewarding, and it ties in well with the football lifestyle as well. So I work in the gym in the morning, go home, have a nap, and then go to football in the afternoon. So
there aren't too many pro sports people doctors though, you're in pretty rare company. I mean, keeping that door open, do you have a path that you'd fancy following, or are you just going to leave it open ended and worry about football and sort of what's a fun job in the meantime, and then if you're going to specialise in something at a later date, so be it.
Yeah, that's the mindset really. Like, I'm never going to be in a position where I can have a crack at football again. Do you know what I mean? So if I wait, like if I did the doctor thing now, then I can't do the football thing later. Whereas I can do the doctor thing later, I can't do the football thing now. So that's sort of my mindset. And I'm really enjoying my work at the moment. So having a break from my studies and playing my football. So that's what I'm going to concentrate on.
With the championship around the corner, I mean, there's probably never been a better time to focus on it too.
Yeah.
I mean, you mentioned it's a bit more real now that draw's out. Is there much chat among the players? Like, are they having to change their jobs and their lives? Because, I mean, some people have quoted to me that the way it's currently set up, it's a 13-month season because you're playing games through where you would normally start pre-season.
Yeah.
And there's a month there that overlaps and people don't know what to do.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we're all hoping that, the competition evolves into becoming full home and away and it's down the road at some point. But for now, I mean, what's been the feeling amongst a team that's going to be there in the championship, regardless of your results this season, about just how different it's going to make football for all of you?
Yeah, like I think we're just excited and we don't have any expectation of sort of what it's supposed to look like, and if we expect it to look like, the Champions League in Europe or the second division in certain countries, like, Australian football at the moment, it's got a lot of good people and it's got a lot of positive momentum. So I think if we just sort of take it for what it is and enjoy it as the process builds, like we're lucky enough to be there when it starts. Do you know what I mean? So we can look back in 20 years and hopefully it's a flourishing thing that everyone at the moment when it's starting is here trying their best to make it work now. So, hopefully it takes off and we fly straight away and we're all loving it. And if it doesn't, okay, well, the first season's done. How can we build? Because football at the moment, it's a building process in this country. And as long as everyone's working hard and pulling in the right direction, I can only see sort of positive things coming from it. From a footballer perspective, we're just loving the fact that we got more football to play. So, yeah, I don't think you can complain too much.
Alrighty, time now, James, for you to choose your all-time five-a-side team. So players you've played alongside, and you can't choose yourself, which is a bit difficult for a goalkeeper. You've got to find some teammate along the way that you'd be confident throwing in the sticks.
Yeah, I've been nervous for this one. So, yeah, in goal, when I came through at Marconi, Nenad Vekic was the number one. So for me, Nenad's got to go straight in because not just was he a wicked goalkeeper, obviously he won trophies at Blacktown, Marconi, and then he kicked on at Wollongong, Sutherland. He's still kicking on South Coast Flames. So Nenad goes in goal because for me, he'd always have time to sort of put an arm around me, show me new things. And as a young and raw goalkeeper, I think that's exactly what I needed. And he was sort of that mentor figure at the time. So for me, for his footballing ability and for his personality, I'd be confident with Nenad in goal. What formation are we playing?
It's up to you. You just got to find 4 outfielders.
Okay.
You can name 4 defenders if you want.
Yeah, I'll go 2 defenders. I think Nathan Milgate picks itself. I absolutely loved playing with Millsy. Obviously, to send him out last year with the championship made it extra special. And I think as soon as a full-time whistle went, everyone ran over to Millsy. I think that shows you the sort of presence he held in the change room. And it made my job so easy. Like, if a cross came in and it was anywhere near him, I could either try to get involved and he'd probably win the header anyway, or if I did catch it, he'd probably absolutely annihilate me trying to win the header. So I couldn't really win. So if the ball was in the air, I sort of just left him to it.
Is he taking a total break? Is he coaching somewhere? Is he still around Marconi?
So he's got a new house and, he's married and I think he just needs a bit of time away. He's playing somewhere. I'm not sure where. He's still enjoying his football. But, top guy, top defender. So, he slots in there. Next to him, maybe a bit of a surprise pick, but we've got a young lad, Alex Jurisic, at the club at the moment, he came through Sydney FC, he ended up at Marconi, and when you talk about maturity, leaders, especially in such a young guy, he's my age, I think he's 22, so he's had 2 back-to-back ACLs injuries, so he's still coming back from an ACL at the moment, and if I'm picking a team of players I want to play with, I want characters and leaders, so for me personally, if I did one ACL, I'd be worrying where my head's at, whereas he's done 2 back-to-back and he's always first in the sheds, last out. You know, he's double shredded, always doing his running like he's top professional. And to have people like that at the club who, you know, if we have a team meal, he'll be buying pizzas for the table or bringing drinks and stuff like that. So to have people like that around, it's part of that togetherness that we spoke about earlier. So for me, Juro goes in there next to Millsy. 2 up front, Mr. Marconi, Brendan Vella. I don't think he gets the flowers he deserves. It can sort of be easy to be pigeonholed as sort of a one-club man. When he's the leading appearance holder for Marconi. He's like 25 or 26, which is ridiculous to think about. But that's the only thing that gets spoken about, not that he's an absolutely wicked footballer. So we have a running joke that he's played every single position at Marconi. And he hasn't been in goal, but he's our third choice goalkeeper. So
2 reds in the same game.
Yeah, so yeah, hopefully not. So yeah, and you could put him in absolutely anywhere in the position and he would do a job for you. So like when we do our 3-2-1 votes, like you have to text them to the manager at the end. So I'll type 3-2-1 in on my phone and the next suggested name on my phone is Vella. So like my phone knows now that he's always in my votes and that, you know, he's putting in a great shift every single game. So Vella goes in there for me. And the final one, probably the easiest pick is Marky Esic. He's probably just the best footballer I've played with and an absolute professional, a leader. So, yeah, for me, that just picks itself. And I don't think I really have to say too much about why he's in there. So,
no, you shouldn't have been worried about picking your 5, though. I mean, you've given us a bit of variety, a surprise pick.
Yeah.
Okay,
an all Marconi side.
Yeah, well, I've only ever played first team football for Marconi and been lucky enough to come up with some brilliant footballers. So, yeah, I back that 5-a-side team.
Well, there's a lot of history at the club, and you've picked some good names there. And I guess with the championship coming up and also the NPL season, you're looking to create some more history. So all the best for it, James.
Cheers, thank you very much. Yeah, thanks for having me.
A big thanks to James Hilton from the Marconi Stallions. Football doctor. They're rare. The only other one I can think of off the top of my head who's playing right now played at Sydney Uni, so you might know her quite well. Kush LaRue of the Western Sydney Wanderers doing a medical degree as well, I believe. But there aren't many, so he's multitasking, and his goalkeeping is certainly the priority number 1 for now, which is good to hear.
It is good to hear because he's going really well, and Marconi Stallions are having a great season, so... at this point of recording, they're undefeated. Hopefully I haven't just jinxed them then and there. So fingers crossed they can have a great season to come.
All right, that's NPL men's chat. We're going to turn our focus now to NPL women's New South Wales on kickoff with our next guest. Every NPL New South Wales match live, free and on demand on YouTube. Subscribe to the Football New South Wales YouTube channel today. Time to turn our focus to NPL Women's New South Wales, and our guest who joins us here at Valentine Sports Park this week from the Bulls Academy is a player who's been around this league for quite some time, even though she's still young and really still only just at the beginning of her senior career. Isabella Coco-Di Sipio, thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Now, I wanted to, before we get into talking about your club and the Bulls Academy, I wanted to talk about your journey because you've had some pretty serious injuries over your career. Is it just nice to be playing consistent football and sort of just have things under control and, you know, within what you can control?
Yeah, 100%. I think a good footballer is a consistent footballer. Definitely in my youth, I did have a good blow of injuries, but I'd like to think that's all behind me and in the past. And yeah, every week I go out there and it's just enjoyable. Like I'm enjoying my football, injury-free, I feel great, and yeah, at the end of the day, I think it's all behind me now, which is good.
Is that reflected in not just your performances, but I think you've shown a lot of seniority in how you're playing at the moment. Do you feel as though, you know, it's a sense of belonging at NPL level, and you've found a level where you aren't just, you know, striving to make the first 11, but you are actually someone who can lead a team and be a leading light for any given team in this league?
Yeah, I think especially this season, I've probably taken on a little bit more of a leadership role. I think I have been in the NPL for quite some time now, and yeah, I feel because I have been in there for so long, I can, you know, instruct and guide the girls coming up, because they're quite young, especially our team. And just give them a bit of guidance and confidence playing football too.
With this, mature head on your shoulders, what advice would you give to someone who's going through a sort of big injury spell, young player? How would you kind of help them get through it?
Yeah, I think you got to look at it you can look at it in two ways. You can get dealt an injury and think end of the world, or you can look at it as, a way that it can shape you. I think for me, I looked at it as I'm a very passionate footballer. All I've known is football. And if you want something, you got to go through adversity. That's football at the end of the day. And, if you are dealt an injury, don't look at it in a negative light. There's always a positive outcome at the end. From my injuries, I've learned that recovery is a very important thing for me. And just finding ways to manage that. So, yeah, I think don't look at it in a negative light. Everything always happens for a reason, and I'm definitely a firm believer of that.
It's a bit of a two-parter question, but what was the worst or the longest time you had to spend out?
So my worst one took me out for 13 months. I broke a bone in my foot into 4. I got told...
Playing, training, how did it happen?
It started off as a stress fracture, and I kind of neglected it because the year before I spent a whole 10 months off from a broken foot. So it was a bit self-inflicted as well. But, I got told by orthopedic surgeons, if you get surgery, probably can't play football again. So I sought many opinions because that didn't sit well with me. Didn't get surgery, and 13 months later, I let my body heal naturally, and back to normal.
So the second part of that is you mentioned recovery there, and that's fascinating because a lot of footballers in team environments get led and told what to do. They get given a calendar, they've got physios and trainers telling them what to do. What do you do? How do you manage it? How much of it is you left to your own devices, and how much of it is team-driven or physio-driven from people that you know that have given you a plan for how to best prepare your body for week-to-week football?
Well, for me, I think I would have to individualise mine. Everyone's different. I know certain body parts for me pull up a bit different. So I do a lot of, chiro, dry needling, cupping. I find that helps a lot. I do infrared saunas and a lot of ice baths. It's not fun in winter, but, we suck it up and it works for me. And, I stretch every morning because, it just gets me going for the day as well, sets the tone.
Well, it seems to be working for you because you're playing really well. You've just been named Midfielder of the Month, so congratulations for that. But
Thank you.
Have to ask you, firstly, what did that feel like? And secondly, what did it feel like seeing midfielder there? Because I would personally categorise you as more of a winger or even a striker sometimes.
It felt good to get Player of the Month and definitely be recognised for the start of the season that I've had. Midfielder, look, I'll go where they put me. I do see myself more as a left winger or a striker, but if I need to go play 10, I'll go play 10. If I'm on the field and I'm doing my job and helping my team out to get 3 points, then I'll do what I need to do.
Well, let's talk about your team because, at this stage when we're talking to you, you're mid-table and you'd love to be pushing up closer to the final spots. But it's a very close league, and win 2 in a row and you'll be right up there. Now you're coming off a very good win against Manly at the time we're chatting. So what's the group like? What's this season's team like? And how do you assess the dynamic of, where the Bulls Academy are at the moment?
Yeah, I think this year we have a lot of new faces. It's a little bit of a refreshed squad. It was a bit hard losing, Trudy in goals and the dynamic centre-back duo with Jess and Liz. But the girls that have come in have really stepped up. We are a very young team, but the philosophy of how we want to play football, the synergy that we've got going on the field, it's starting to reflect on game day. We did have a rocky start to the season. I think a lot of it was a little bit self-inflicted with our team, just a few errors here and there. But we've come together. We've worked out where we want to be as a team and as a senior squad. And I think the last 4 games we've picked up results and it's working.
I wanted to ask about one of your teammates who I had known very little about before this season, and going back through her playing history, she's playing reserves or 18, so fair enough. Petria Phillips.
Yeah.
Now, scored a very eye-catching goal a couple of weeks ago, has scored more goals since. What's her story and what's she like as a teammate and what is she bringing to this Bulls Academy team?
I think if you look for a footballer who just wants to outwork everyone, she's the one. I think at the moment we're working quite well together. Her in midfield, me on the wing. We're starting to understand each other, how we play. She's in 1 year developed into a really good footballer, and I think the sky's the limit for her. She just keeps being consistent, getting in the right positions. Yeah, she is a top footballer.
Where's the evolution of the squad at? Because Amber Luchtmeyer's come back. You'll have other A-League women's players come back. But you've also got players like Ash Brodigan or Liz Gray, who you already mentioned, who've been in that system. And there's always that level of ambition. And you've got youngsters who are wanting to, this season's the season. But you've also got players in their 20s who are thinking, this season's the season that if I'm in good enough form, I get the call and I take the next step. So how would you assess sort of the dynamics of the squad and the level of both personal and collective ambition within the team?
I think it's very leveled. You got young girls who are already at that A-League level and young girls that want to get to that level. And then, like you said, you've got girls in their 20s who have been there. I think it's a good mixture to have because the older ones have that experience and that knowledge that they can pass down and bring to the younger ones. But yeah, I think it's a good dynamic that we've got. And there's a lot of ambitious footballers in our team that want to make that next step.
And you talk about ambitious footballers. You're one of them. I know you want to make that next step. You recently spent some time playing over in Italy. Talk us through that experience.
Yeah, so anyone that knows me knows that I have been itching for a professional contract. But I did take my game over to Europe. I think being of an Italian background, I am very instilled in the European style of play, and I wanted to see what that was like overseas. In terms of how they do things, it's a very professional environment. You go on away trips as a team together on a bus, you're staying at hotels, team prep, training. It was a very good experience, but I have unfinished business back home here. And now I have unfinished business over there. So I do like challenges, but we're going to tackle the one back home first.
How did your language skills hold up? Like, was it a culture shock or was it a seamless transition?
Well, thankfully, because I am Italian, it wasn't too much of a culture shock. I think I slotted in quite well. The language barrier did take a bit of time for me to get out of my shell, but I think maybe the girls over there might say otherwise, but I think I adjusted quite well.
No, fair enough. Hey, I don't care what they think. I care what you think.
Well, I think I did quite well.
But coming back to that NPL environment, because the competition's been quite compelling this season. We know that it's scrambles as soon as the A-League players come back, and then teams will actually settle. But I actually think these first 2 months of the last 3 seasons have been hugely beneficial, kind of seeing who's there and who's next and who's coming through and pushing up. So. How do you see the sort of the week to week of NPL? What's your assessment of the standard of competition, but also where the competition is at? Because there seems to be, the impression I get from a lot of the guests we have on this show is there's a high level of satisfaction from NPL players with how the competition is satisfying their desire to play a good level of football. I don't want to overstate it, but how do you see the competition at the moment?
Yeah, I think NPL New South Wales is by far one of the top NPLs in Australia. You get a lot of quality players that come back to play in it and also grow from it. I think when you do start to get the A-League girls coming back, it increases the intensity, which is great for those aspiring to get to that level. It just shows you what you need to do in order to get there. But yeah, I think the competition is at an all-time high. It's from when I started out to now, it's definitely progressed in an upward trajectory. Yeah,
absolutely. And we saw that recently with your team having some good wins against perhaps teams they weren't favoured to based on form. It's pretty even this year. You've recently knocked off Manly, who were undefeated at the time of. You mentioned off air you've got an undefeated record at home. How does the team go about finishing out more games and getting more results to sort of replicate that success and start climbing up the ladder?
Yeah, I think knocking off Manly was a big win for us. I think any team in the NPL is beatable if we're playing our best football, which we have been in the last few weeks. I don't see a reason why top four's not up for discussion. I think we do want to set a standard that anyone that does come to Northbridge Oval, watch out, because we are undefeated at home and we want to keep that standard. So, yeah.
Has the target been collectively moved off Apia and put onto Mount Druitt? Or do you feel as though when you think, who do I want to beat, everyone still says Apia, even though 4 teams have already had the privilege of beating Apia? By the time this pod comes out, it might be 5 or even 6, because I think they're going to play twice between now and when the pod comes out. But with Mount Druitt having started the season the way they have the crosshairs moved onto the Mount Druitt team instead?
Quite possibly. I think Mount Druitt have started off exceptionally well. Maybe I'm a bit biased, but I do think they got a bit lucky with us in round 1.
A red card changes any game.
100%. So we will be definitely seeking a bit of revenge at Northbridge Oval when we play them. But yeah, I'm very surprised on how they've started the season and how they're continuing to grow as a team. I think Manly and Stingrays are definitely top 4 contenders. Purely because they've been together for so long, and you can see that chemistry out on the field come game day. That's why, beating Manly was very satisfying.
And for you, you've mentioned you're a passionate footballer as a player of the game. You also coach. You're managing the social media for Bulls. What is it like taking, different hats to different roles of Isabella in football?
Yeah, if I can impact football in a positive way the best I can, I will do that. Yeah, I have, along with Danny, started the Bulls social media account, and we seem to be getting good traction on that, and it's just good to have a platform for us as a team. I don't think we were getting that early on, but now we're starting to see that grow. In terms of coaching, I've headed back to my grassroots club, Enfield Rovers, and I've taken on an under-10 girls team there, and they're definitely keeping me on my toes. And I've also started the head coach role with the Mini Tillies program that they've got going on there. So, yeah.
Before I assume you know that Annabelle also coaches an under-10s team. Are we going to get some sort of duel between the two coaches here?
We'll see
coach versus coach.
What team are you coaching?
Sydney Uni under-10s.
Okay, I've got Enfield Rovers under-10s. I'm not sure if there's a crossover, but maybe we'll put them in a team training.
What's the biggest things you're noticing coaching girls that age? How much of it is Matilda's effect on flow from World Cup? How much of it is just, kids that play multiple sports and football's one of them? How much of it is just hyperactive kids whose parents are throwing them out on the field so they can run around? Like, how do you... Because you're at the cutting edge of generational change and seeing what motivates people to play football. So what are you seeing out there at grassroots?
I think definitely having the Women's World Cup here influenced a lot of girls to start participating in football. There is still a crossover of girls who do maybe gymnastics, dancing, and their friends are playing football, so they want to play football. But from what I hear, a lot of girls are leaning towards more of football than they are gymnastics, which is great. But I think, the Women's World Cup has definitely influenced them. And, you talk to the young girls, or who's your favourite Matilda, and they say who it is. Like, you can see that it's had that positive impact on them.
Female Football Week was held recently by Football New South Wales, an initiative that they've been driving for a very long time. What's next? What initiative? Like, where are the needs that you see, especially given that, again, you're having that hands-on role with people who are only just entering football, and you can probably think back to when you were the same age and the journey you've taken and what you would have loved to have had that maybe these girls will get to enjoy. But, give us some of your insights there.
I think just having coaches that take the time out of their day and really just want to hone in and develop the younger kids coming up. I think I didn't have that growing up, especially in grassroots, and I think that's why I want to give back a little bit to my local club, because I didn't have that growing up. And if I can just even instill something, a little spark in a girl who wants to aspire to be, a Matilda when they grow up, then that's very rewarding to me as well.
And no doubt you're teaching them lots of things. You're helping them get there. What are they teaching you? What are you learning by working with young players?
Lots of patience, that's for sure. They teach me a lot. They've taught me how to just listen on a different level. I think, they have a lot to say all the time, and it's just, just trying to listen to what they want. I think they say things in a roundabout way, and just trying to understand what they're truly asking for without them actually asking for it. So that's what they've taught me.
What sort of, are you more of a technical skills-based coach? Are you a messaging, motivating-based coach? Like, do you like to give a theme for a training session and watch it reflected? Do you like to give, sort of case studies or, team talks? Or like, I know it's kids, right? But as you hone your own coaching craft, and there's probably nowhere better to start than at this age before it may get more serious at some point in the future, how do you see yourself as a coach?
I would say I'm very technical, only because I'm a very technical player, and I think being a footballer, you need to be a technical player. Instilling, being a right foot and left foot, I think if you can have those attributes at a young age, you're going to go far as a footballer. And that's only because when I started out playing, I had a coach that I was predominantly right-footed, and he said, you want to be a good footballer, learn to kick with both feet. So I think a lot of my sessions probably a bit more technical, only because I know that the girls I've got have potential to go far, and you need to be both-footed.
Before we get into our final question, I wanted to ask, tell us about what you're doing away from football, because, again, the sentiment we get from a lot of guests that we speak to in NPL Women's, the ones in their 20s, balancing work, maybe they're about to get married or they've got a serious partner, they're about to buy a house, life is getting in the way, but NPL football is still there in a satisfying way for them. Where are you at? From this conversation and from the fact that you went overseas to play in Italy professionally, I imagine you are honing quite strongly in on the football side of things before life does get too much in the way.
Yes, I think last year I hit a turning point where I was working full-time and playing full-time football, and I thought one needs to give, and it definitely was not going to be football. So like I said, I am chasing that A-League contract here, so I'm putting all my eggs in a basket to get that. And at the moment, I'm just doing my coaching on the side. That keeps me busy. I'm starting a Cert 3 and Cert 4 in fitness. The end goal is, once my career's over, become an S&C coach for a professional team. But yeah, just pretty much that. Outside of football, if I'm not recovering, well, I'm hanging out with friends, catching up, because, life does take its course after you leave high school, and catch-ups here and there are always nice with some friends.
And just before we get into our final question, your mum is one of the loudest people on a sideline I've ever met. She's so friendly and very much in your corner supporting you. What's it like to have sort of all your family supporting this goal?
Yeah, I owe a lot to my mum. I definitely wouldn't be the person or footballer without her. She's seen me at my all-time lows, and she's picked me up from my lows and brought me back to my highs. And I think this journey that I'm going on it with her as well. And I think once I get that contract in my hand, I'll know, we've done it. And yeah, she's been by my side, and she's my rock.
Is she good to refs? I'm not asking you. I'm asking you. Is she good to refs?
I think so.
Oh, good.
She's
Well, that's
all
all
right.
Now I can ask you. Is she good to refs?
Yeah, she doesn't say anything bad about the refs. No, she's good. She's more...
That's what we like. Loud, passionate, and, good sport.
Yeah, she keeps the fan base going, that's for sure.
That is for sure. And now we will get on to your dream five-a-side team. So, Isabella, any players you've played alongside throughout your football career and can't pick yourself, who's in the team?
Ooh, going back in the archives here. All right. I think I'll start off with, I'll put Isabel Gomez in there. Her and I, we're good friends, and I rate her so much as a footballer.
Which teams did you cross over in?
School, yep. High school. So I went to Westfields with her, and, I would rather her on my team than versing her. She's a very technical player, good on the ball, sees that pass, I would put her in my team for sure. I'll go with Vesna Milivojevic, again from school and Bankstown. She's, I think, overseas in Europe. Yeah, and she's killing it there. She's a footballer by nature. Yeah, she's class. So I'd definitely put her there as well. She's good on the ball. She can facilitate and score. So I would want her on my team. I would go... You know what? I'm going to back my captain at the moment. I'm going to put Liz Gray there. I think if you want someone on your team who's a leader, knows the right things to say, composure on the ball, I feel so calm when she's on the ball. I've just my heart rate just lowers.
And she can score a last minute winner too. We saw against the Stingrays.
That was class. Yeah, she not only can score goals, she defends with, all she's got. So I'd put her there. How many is that? That's 3.
You got a keeper for us?
Oh, I got Morgan Aquino, I played with her at Apia. If you want a keeper that keeps you in the game, she's the one. Penalty saves and everything.
And one more. Who's your 5th?
Ooh. You know what? I'll go Georgia Plessis. I think she's got a lethal left foot.
Was that Bankstown or somewhere else that you crossed over?
Bankstown? Yeah, Bankstown.
Yeah.
So we did 2 years at Bankstown together, and I went to school with her when I was at Endeavour as well. So we go way back. I put her in there. She's quick. She's got a lethal left foot. Yeah, I rate her.
And then who gets subbed out so you can come on?
Oh, okay. Ooh. You know what? We'll give Isabel early showers. She's worked hard for it, so I'll swap her out.
It's a pretty again, it's amazing how many people, when we do this exercise with them, they want the most competitive people. And I hear from who you've picked a real desire to win in there.
Oh, yeah.
It may be 5-a-side, but you've picked some pretty fierce competitors in there.
No. Everything's a competition, I think. Yes.
I know it's not even close to the halfway point of the season, but best case scenario, Bulls go on a cup run, Bulls in the top 4. Like, what are you thinking team-wise come the end of the season?
Yeah, I think top 4 for Bulls is a non-negotiable. I think we've got the talent and we've got the desire and the work rate to get there. It's just consistency. We just need to, we've got good momentum at the moment, so it's just maintaining that. And yeah, I don't see why finals football can't happen for us.
Enjoy the rest of the journey. Isabella Coco-Di Sipio, thank you for joining us.
Pleasure. Thank you.
So our guest there, Isabella Coco-Di Sipio, thank you for joining us. Very interesting chat, very wide-ranging, bit of football, bit of medical, with the injury history. Fascinating, really, and just goes to show that love of the game will motivate you to take your body and your mind to places you didn't think you'd have to go.
Well, you can see she's very passionate about football from, a holistic point of view. Obviously playing, the main focus, desperate to get an A-League gig, but she enjoys coaching, she enjoys the social media side of things and helping platform the game, and I think it's really exciting to see her grow, and best of luck for her with, a future professional career.
Next up, it's our leagues focus, so we're going to go down to the second tier and find out what's going on there.
Day after day, Kappa rewrites the concept of sportswear. Kappa means teamwork, past, present, and future. Kappa never stops, 'cause winning starts within. 2 people, 1 brand. Kappa.
Time for our leagues chat, which takes us to League One men's, the very competitive League One men's at the moment, and part of the cluster of teams that are chasing promotion are the Interlions, and Sam Armson joins us from that team. Sam, thanks for joining us on Kickoff.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
At the time of recording, there is only 8 points between first and sixth, and that even doesn't include Newcastle with the points deduction, who would have been up there pressing as well. Extremely competitive league, nothing less than we would expect from League One. How are you assessing a little bit beyond the first third of the season as we creep towards the halfway mark?
Yeah, I think the league is really probably the most competitive one there is. There's almost no difference between first, last, the kind of teams that are there. You got to show a lot of respect to every team. Never an easy game. Even teams at the moment, some big teams who maybe were tipped for promotion at the start are down the bottom. You got your Bonnie Rick Hills, who are big clubs that are struggling, and it's just chaos in the start. But it's exciting, and you look forward to every game.
But it's an environment that you know well because you've been at Interlions for quite a while. So tell us about where the team has evolved to this particular season, and sort of, are you living up to the expectations the group set, or are you hoping for more? Where are you at present?
Yeah, so we got a very new squad this year, so it was a bit, unsure coming into pre-season, but pretty quickly we all gelled as a group, came together. It's a great environment, and we all kind of decided, I guess figured out that we're all on the same page of we want to be up the top. So I think so far we're pretty much on track of where we want to be, right up there near the top, fighting for promotion, not far off. We've had some good results. We were the first team to beat SD Raiders, who I think are the league leaders at the moment.
At the time of talking, they've just been tipped out by Northern Tigers on goal difference, goal difference only. But hey, by the time the pod comes out, it'll be different again.
Yeah. So. Who knows? Maybe we'll be up there. So we're first team to knock them off, and so I think we're tracking well, and it's just about building on this. And I think week in, week out, we're improving and getting a bit better. So it's just working on that, and hopefully come towards the end of the season, we're still in contention.
Tell us about sort of what the culture of Interlions is. Is this an NPL team in waiting? Is it a team that needs to do certain things before it could be at home in the top flight? Like, where do you see the journey of this club, and where it's trying to go and how it's trying to get there?
Yeah, I think there's always conversations that they want to be leading into NPL 1. And I think the club's done very well, especially over the years, to not overreach. And I think the idea is the club wants to get there, but stay there, not just try to reach at one time and then fall back down. And the club's been building, got a great facility. Zelko has just come into the club as well as director of football, and he's looking to build from the bottom up almost, to make sure we have a strong base, a good development system. And the club wants to get up there and build, but I think we want to make sure we're doing it the right way. And that's always the conversation, but it's not about, it's making sure we do it the right way.
Well, you've shown a couple of years ago that you can definitely match it with top-tier teams when you beat Rockdale, made it to the Australia Cup round of 32, got an away trip to Darwin. What was that experience like?
Yeah, that was amazing. I mean, that run showed that we have the ability and the support to get there. Beating Rockdale was, such a great game, and I scored the winner, by the way, just in case anyone forgot. So that was good. That was a massive occasion, and Rockdale were the team to beat in all of NPL, and we knocked them off to get to the round of 32. And just that experience to be in the round of 32, the coverage, it was on 10 Play. There was, the talk shows about the games leading into that. It was such a cool experience for so many of the boys who probably don't experience that. And then, getting to go up to Darwin, we're all in our tracksuits on the flight together, hotels paid for, like that kind of stuff, where before the game they're doing like security pass checks and everything and all this. So it was, such a cool experience, and something like we will never forget.
I just want to go off on a little tangent, because one of your teammates that season is someone I work with and know quite well, Daniel Georgievsky. Are you across his exploits as a TV comedian these days with the warm-up?
Yeah, I always see those clips he's always posting. They're always funny. Yeah, he's funny.
Anyway, just as an aside, the editor if you see him, tell him that the editor gets a lot of credit for that show as opposed to his comedic timing. Sorry, back to the football. It's interesting you talk about the sustainability of coming up and staying up. I guess this league is such a bottleneck to get out of, though. And who do you assess as being the top contender? Like, who are the teams that you're looking at on the table and in the fixture and saying, that's a six-pointer, it's a must-win?
Yeah. I think this year Northern Tigers has kind of been the front runner. Started strong, continued to go strong. They've got a lot of good players. I think they're probably the team to beat at the moment, and the team that's looking most likely, although their history does show they fall off at the end of the year. So we'll see if that continues. But I think that's always the bookmark game and the team to beat to get up the top.
Who's playing well this season? Who are some of your teammates that deserve a lot of credit for the way they are performing? Has anyone caught you by surprise, or any Warriors that have fronted up yet again and continue to perform?
Well, don't want to get in trouble here.
Is there? Well, okay. Do you have a fine system for appearing in the media? No. Okay, well that's fine. You can name drop anyone you want. Yeah, they're not going to get fined.
No, all the boys have been. Honestly, everyone's been really good. A couple of experienced players coming in with Koleski and Jamba at the back, with Evan Davis in goal, who've really kind of shored up the fence. We've had 5 clean sheets in 6 recently, just as we've got that firing. And then a lot of the younger boys have come up and made the jump kind of into the first team, and with a couple injuries, first team starters as well. So we've got, my brother Ned has kind of made the jump into a first team regular. Sebastian Portalesi has come in, Harry Rushton, James Ord has been all boys who are still young, almost under 20s, and they're striving in the first team. Yeah, so they've been really good.
You mentioned your brother Ned. You've got him playing alongside you at Inter. You've got brother Jack, who's at Olympic. What's it like, coming through the system with your brothers and now getting to play with one still at Inter?
Yeah, it's good. All of us in the system, in the NPL, we've been alongside each other, following each other all our years, so it's good to see the progression. Obviously, it's great to have Ned in the team alongside me now. He's really made a big jump because he's been at Inter for a few years in the 18s, the 20s, building up, and this year he's made a big jump into the first team. As a first team regular, and it's really good, especially for mum and dad, because they just have to come watch one game. They used to be there for hours, but
Well, I was gonna ask, I understand as a captain you have to, set an example and show loyalty to your team, but I mean, are you regularly turning down offers from other clubs? I mean, does Jack's own outstanding performance mean that you and your brother are also subject to interest that might be from other teams, that you see the name recognition and think, well, hang on, they've grown up in the same household, let's kick the tyres? Or do people understand not to, try to poach you away from a club you've been very loyal to?
yeah, I think people know me as, a lot of people know me as Jack's brother, and, I've been always trying to pave my own way, but I think the name is out there and everyone knows what we do. So, maybe there's always conversations and stuff like that, but I've always found my home at Inter and, been loving it.
We've talked about a lot of positives for how the team's going, but there's no cup run this year. It's already over. Was it, going up against a NPL 1 team, Sutherland, a match you had chances in, a match you had looks in, or a match where you got outplayed? How did you assess the end of your cup run this season?
Yeah, it was tough this year to play an NPL 1 team straight away. Well, at least this year we had a home game. Every other year we've had some crazy travels. Last year we had a 14-hour round trip, which we did in a day. Left at 7 a.m, got home at 2 a.m.
Where was that?
Oh, down south somewhere, like Wagga.
Okay.
We left at 7 a.m, got home at 2 a.m. So at least it was a home game this year, but we lost. The Sutherland game is always tough, never easy against NPL 1 team. It was pretty even, and then they scored one, and it was just tough to break them down. So it was tough to go out, but now we're just looking to focus on the league from there. And
does that give you, I guess, hope for the future, knowing that you're building towards becoming an NPL 1 team and becoming at that standard?
Yeah. I think we were very competitive throughout that whole game. It wasn't too much in it. Could have swung either way. So that's, again, another positive for us, that we're at that level and continue to look towards it.
All right, final 60 seconds. Annabelle's going to fire some quick-fire questions at you. Just give us the first answer that comes to mind.
What is your first football memory?
Scoring from goalkeeper when I was about 7.
That's pretty special. All right, and your favourite footballer of all time?
Frank Lampard.
Day or night matches?
Night.
Best footballer that you've ever played with?
Nico Paris.
Okay, your go-to karaoke song in the sheds?
Cooler Than Me.
Dream stadium to play in?
Stamford Bridge.
Your biggest football ick?
Gloves with no long sleeves.
Any of your teammates doing that? You've had to pull them in line?
They'd get fined.
You do have a fine system. There we go.
Yeah.
And what's the end of season headline for Interlines this year? What do you want everyone to know?
Welcome to NPL 1.
I like it.
Well,
thanks for joining us, Sam.
Thank you for having me. It's been good.
Good luck with, the charge for NPL 1, and hope that headline rings true for you at the end of the year.
Thank you.
so 3 fantastic guests on kickoff this episode. Annabelle, what's going to be keeping you busy in Football New South Wales activities in the coming weeks before perhaps we next reconvene?
Continuing to commentate. I've got a fefew games up at North Turramurra, so standing on a hill, but the Tigers are going really well, so it's exciting to watch them play at the moment. Just keeping up with my commentary. What about you, Teo?
I am finally, the roster has finally come down with an NPL women's game for me, which I'm looking forward to. The end of the A-League women's season is coming up. It's been, look, I'll be honest, it's been keeping me busy, that and the Dolan Warren Awards, but the prospect of getting my teeth into NPL on a weekly basis during the winter months is just around the corner, and that includes NPL women's, not just men's. I've been out to Rockdale a few times. I've been to Lambert, to Marconi, to Sydney United this season, out to Cromer Park. So, you know,
all over the place.
Well, no, but I look, I do enjoy getting out to as many different venues as possible, and the NPL women's, because they're all on Sundays and it's kind of, you know, blink and you'll miss it. To be honest, often I do like watching the streams concurrently just to try and get as many games sort of done as possible rather than having to chase up highlights or watch them back during the week. But yes, I'll be at the Village Green, University of New South Wales versus Northern Tigers. Looking forward to getting out and commentating that. So A-League Women's Grand Final one weekend, University of New South Wales versus Northern Tigers the next. So those two teams, you're on notice. I expect entertainment when I head out there.
Well, you mentioned the streams, and it draws us into a good point. Make sure you do check out the NPL New South Wales and all their games that are streamed on the Football New South Wales YouTube page, and you can catch up on highlights there as well. So do tune in there. And we will be back in a month to see how all the competitions are progressing.
It's going to be fascinating. Of course, we'll be closer to working out who's going to the national rounds of the Hahn Australia Cup as well. But in the meantime, to all of the players and coaches and fans of NPL New South Wales and League One as well, make sure you make sure you subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. Rate us 5 stars while you're there. And on behalf of Annabelle Banfield, my name's Teo Pellizzeri. We'll see you next time on Kickoff.
Perfect, that's crossed it, oh my word, what a save.
She gets around Dunbar, she's out wide, but she puts it in the net. Lovely strike, lovely bit of play.
Oh, and he's looking to catch the goalkeeper out. It is an unbelievable